Welcome back to the channel. This week we have two high impact news events coming up. The first, out of the US, we have the Fed meeting. Are they going to raise interest rates? Are they not? How much are they going to raise them? And the second being from the EU Parliament with some crypto legislative to vote on. So we'll cover that today and of course follow up with the results in the coming days as well. So make sure you've liked and subscribed to the channel so you stay up to date with what we're covering here. And of course, share it with a friend if you find some value from it. Before we dive in, thank you to our sponsor, Bybit. There is still the $4,000 Ethereum giveaway going on till the end of March with the winners to be announced in early April. Check out the link in the top of the description. 4 lucky winners will win $1,000 of ETH each. All you have to do is sign up and deposit at least $10 to your own Bybit account over there. It's exclusive to my channel and my brother's channel, Michael Pizzino. All right, let's dive in to the news and what's going on in cryptocurrency. Starting with the fear and greed, sitting at 23, yesterday 21, last week 23. Of course, I love to cover this just to see what the market sentiment is doing. Not much has changed really in the last month. We had a couple of little bumps out of the extreme fear into some neutral zone just when the Janet Yellen bit of media was released by accident. Market was up, now it's back down. So the sentiment has been pretty much the same, whereas the prices have bounced and then sort of come back to exactly where they've been for the last couple of weeks, and in some cases the last 3 or so weeks as well. Taking a look at the last 24 hours, you can see we're down a few percent at the time of this recording, 37,800, couple of percent here or there. Most of the cryptos are basically following Bitcoin and having a little bit of a worse time with a few more percent down. You had the odd 1 or 2 here, but nothing really that is standing out as a significant trade in the short term or even in the long term at the moment. I still don't see a bottom in at this point for crypto. Let's take a look at cryptocurrencies against their BTC value. So what we want to see here is in the last 24 hours, what has increased against Bitcoin and what has decreased. So if I just click on this again, some of these have just not had a very good time. Down a few percent against Bitcoin, of course. Bitcoin's going to be the 0 here. And the other side, there's a few percent up the other way, but nothing really that crazy like we saw last week when we saw Zcash up 40% and XMR Monero also up 30-40% as well. Bitcoin, what is happening today and over the next 24 hours? All right, so I've got a couple of notes here. Alt season, what's happening in April. The last video I have on the channel is looking at April being a potentially positive month for Bitcoin. Just looking historically, the last 12 years of the data we have for Bitcoin, I think it was 7 out of those 11 or 12 times has been at some sort of positive, doesn't have to be massive, or at least stable. The other times it's been negative, but it hasn't been too bad overall. We have seen the market go basically trend sideways for the last 2 months since late January, and the prices really haven't moved that much out of the $30,000 zone. So at some point, we have to get a relief rally on the macro time frame, and I'm talking macro here as in a monthly chart, not just looking at the daily or the hourly or the 4 hourly for all of these trades. But at some point we will have to get a bit of a move up, or at least 1 month that goes higher, a higher high than the previous month. And hopefully for March, we've got another couple of weeks to go. This thing starts to close a bit higher, at least closes above that $39,000 to $40,000 level to give us that head start to move into April, to move higher into those $40,000 zone. Coming back down to the micro time frame, looking at the daily, we are at 38,000. 40K is still a level. If you love to use moving averages, the moving average here at the 50-day is at also very similar to our GAN 50% price point, which is at $40,000 as well. The market obviously downtrend. I want to see the market break back above 40 and also break this downtrend to at least give us some short-term bullishness and some more buyers coming back into the market. Obviously, that's going to push the price up. But I think if it can do that, then we have a better chance of getting some sort of mini alt season. I don't think it's going to be anything massive like we've seen in 2021, but maybe at least some sort of relief into these altcoins just to pump them that little bit after they have been absolutely crushed. Things like Phantom are getting ridiculously crushed. FTM is also down a fair bit. I mean, that goes across the board. I'm just picking on Phantom there. It was something I was looking at before this video as it was breaking through some more support levels. And, for Bitcoin, this low, you can see it's coming on the 27th of February. This low is at 37,000. The next low, 37,100, and our current low at 37,560 is forming a mini base, but the downside is the highs are getting lower as well. So we're getting this flat base, higher lows, descending triangle generally means downside. There's not much volume to the upside. You know, here was the big volume on the 9th of March, but the market was slapped back down the following day. So that's not really putting too much strength into the market. But hopefully this is just a draining of all of the last sellers before we can get just some sort of relief rally into this late part of March, and then follow through into April. Because it'd be great to be able to test 46K again, especially with higher lows coming into the market. Now, if all that sounds like too much doom and gloom, I always refer back to the wall of worry. Markets love to climb a wall of worry. There's a lot of bad news. There's not too much positive going on, so you might not even get the good news to balance out all that bad news. But I mean, like over the last 12, 13 years, we've been up since this major crash in the financial markets, March 2009, big job losses. And then you can basically read out every single one of these points, plus add in another 1,000 more for reasons to sell on the way up. It's just a matter of being flexible in your views of the market and having a broader outlook. If we're zooming in for the next 24 hours, pretty hard to say because we're basically getting higher lows and lower highs. So this market is trending towards something, potentially waiting on some of these big news announcements coming this week. And eventually we'll get the volatility out of it. But if we zoom out and we take a broader picture of the market, it is definitely on the way up longer term. I don't think there's too many people disputing that now, considering we have come down quite a distance. In the meantime, for the risk reward, just looking to the downside where these lows can form at around 36K, it's about 13% from the current prices. To the 29K lows, it's about 23%. So if we're looking to DCA into Bitcoin, not talking about the rest of the cryptocurrencies, that's something that I definitely look for. How much is the downside? How far away is the downside? Somewhere in the mid 20s. So we go to around that $23,000, $24,000, about 36% from the current prices. And if we got back to the old all-time highs at about $20,000, that's 48. So call it about 50% loss from this point. That's just taking a broader outlook on cryptocurrency and in particular Bitcoin to give me an idea of how I would dollar cost average it into the market, especially when the market is in a negative sentiment. Speaking of negative sentiment, we've got the limiting proof of work crypto back on the table as EU Parliament prepares virtual currencies vote. So this was news just a day ago. They're still talking about this. They want to bring it back onto the board. And then this morning, we had the same sort of thing. Bitcoin banning measures seen too close to call in tomorrow's EU Parliament. So they don't know if they're not sure what the outcome's going to be. Proposed rule that could have effectively amount to a ban on the leading cryptocurrency Bitcoin, potentially Ethereum as well, because it's a proof of work, will be voted on by the EU Parliament Monday, with the outcome very much undecided. So as I'm filming this, it's midday Monday, Australia time. So probably in the next 12 hours or so, we should get some sort of resolution. The provision in question requires all crypto assets to be subject to the EU's minimum environmental sustainability standards. So we're going through this ESG narrative that has been pushed by a lot of Greens at the moment. So the Greens and Socialists, as you can imagine, are criticizing the proof of work concept and criticizing the energy use, saying that Bitcoin needs more energy than the Netherlands. But I'd argue that Bitcoin has the potential to do more good for the world than the Netherlands has at this point in time. The Netherlands have had their time to rule the world, and they've been overtaken by the UK, and then the next superpower US, and then whoever overtakes the US at that point. So these sort of comparisons are absolutely ridiculous in my opinion, because we're working with something here that has the potential to do more than what they're comparing it to. So it's apples and oranges. On top of that, the Bitcoin Mining Council has noted that they've increased to 58.5% sustainable energy in Q4 of 2021. So this was put out in January of 18. It's not new information. It's nearly 2 months old, but it's surprising how some politicians are still leaning towards banning Bitcoin and crypto and proof of work, probably due to them, their party members being, say, Greens and Socialists, trying to push another side of the narrative rather than looking at what's actually going on. My opinion, of course, is politicians are always behind the 8 ball, whereas business is always in front, and the politicians are trying to pull business back. Let's take a look at CZ and Binance. Binance plans acquisition spree of non-crypto businesses. This is what the report's saying. Binance is planning an acquisition spree targeting companies that operate outside the world of cryptocurrency. I think it's a fantastic idea. We want to identify and invest in 1 or 2 targets in every economic sector and try to bring them into crypto. So CZ is stating that the strategy is about making the crypto industry bigger. So if we can get all these different companies in from outside, different sectors that possibly aren't even in crypto, of course it's going to expand the space. And he's already throwing in 200 millions. Look, this is into Forbes, of course, but they have their report out that they're looking to acquire more companies, bring them into this crypto space, adoption, development. That's my narrative for 2022, even though the prices aren't rising. But if you're holding NFTs like Bored Ape Yacht Clubs and CryptoPunks, then you may have seen an explosion in the price of those NFTs over the last 24 hours. CryptoPunks Ethereum NFT sales surged 1,200% after Bored Ape creators acquire IP. So we've got the Bored Ape Yacht Club creators, Yuga Labs, taking the or buying the IP of CryptoPunks, and that now allows CryptoPunk owners to commercialize their CryptoPunk, building brands around their own CryptoPunk, whereas before they basically just owned the punk on the blockchain, whereas Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, they can go and create their own brands around it. They own the intellectual property of that CryptoPunk. And so this has then pushed the prices or the sales volume, which we saw drop in February of NFTs. This has just made them boom 1,200% over the last 24 hours. That's the sales volume coming through on NFTs of CryptoPunks. The volumes have also increased on Meebits as they also acquired Meebits. So Yuga Labs got Meebits as part of the deal, up 500%. And then, of course, 300% as well for Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. Updating the cryptocurrency market cap, the total market capitalization, we're still sitting around $1.65 trillion and $1.7 trillion. You can see over the last, again, 7 or so weeks, the market's had a few little peaks up and down and sideways, but essentially it has been sideways, sitting around at 1.6. Now, my figure was around 1.8 trillion that I wanted to see this market close and consolidate above. The only good side we can see so far is that it's still holding above the downtrend and, of course, the uptrend from lower prices as well. So you can see a nice channel forming here. I would say in time that will probably break down from this channel. There's nothing really supporting it longer term, but maybe in the short term we'll get a little bit of a bounce. For the total market caps, as we've just been squeezed so much and this market is just running out of steam to the downside. We're getting a few little higher prices, but I think if we do get anything, it's probably going to be short-lived for this period of the market. You know, the altcoins, if we do get a little bit of a move, probably short-lived. That's what I'm expecting over the next 24 hours in cryptocurrency, especially with the big stuff coming out from EU and the Fed as well. So we'll update that again tomorrow when we've got some more news. And of course, this week, that big Fed interest rate announcement, I think that's going to help real estate buyers this year as well, 2022, as it's starting to take some of that FOMO steam out of the market from all of the buyers and looking likely for another good period, a good potential buyer's market before we start to move again for the second half of the real estate cycle, leading into another peak sometime later this decade. Check out the link in the top of the description to our free newsletter. Lots more info on real estate, stocks, and cryptocurrency there. And of course, the link to the Ethereum giveaway with Bybit down below. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys at the next video. Until then, have more fun to get more done.